Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Life with Barney, and today we're smoking a Boston butt. Boston butt is also called a pork shoulder or a pork shoulder roast. I got this particular one from Bloomer's Family Farm, thank you very much. For those of you down here in southwestern Ontario, if you live in the greater London area, I'll put the link below in the description for the Bloomer's Family Farm website. They are doing delivery and curbside pickup during the pandemic. They have some awesome cuts of meat. I highly recommend you check them out. So thanks again to Bloomer's Family Farm. There's two ways to do your Boston butt that I've looked up. One is the typical low and slow, you're sitting around 225. The general rule of thumb is 2 hours a pound. Well, this is 5.12 pounds. So we'd be looking at just over 10 hours. I'm starting a little late in the day. I want to relax this Sunday. I didn't want to get up too early. So we're going to be smoking it up around 275 to 300. Which should bring that time down to about 7 to 8 hours. At the end of the day, when you're smoking a Boston butt, if you want to be able to pull it anyway, you're looking for that 195 to 200 degree internal temperature, which will get that perfect pull when it comes off the grill. We are going to do a binder. I've got some yellow mustard. I'm going to do a rub, and I'll go over the ingredients in just a moment. 1 cup of brown sugar. Typically, the flavor profile you want with pork is a sweet one. This is 2 teaspoons of paprika, 1 teaspoon cayenne pepper, and about 3 teaspoons of salt. But really the salt is to taste. So if you're gonna make some rubs at home, folks, and you throw them all together, make sure you give it a little taste before you put it on the meat, just in case you wanna add a little more of one thing or the other. I'm gonna get this lathered up, and I'm gonna get the rub on there. The Weber Smoky Mountain I can see is almost ready to be assembled outside. I'm gonna get this done. I'll see you guys out there. You enjoy the time lapse. Thanks for coming back. Weber Smoky Mountain is ready to be assembled. I'm going to use some cherry wood today. As you guys know, I'm not a professional or anything. I'm learning just as much as anybody else out there trying to watch some barbecue YouTube videos. And in addition to sweet flavor profiles, cherry wood seemed to be one of the top recommendations for smoke type on pork dishes. So I've got a couple big chunks of cherry wood here. I'm going to position them around the charcoal ring just so they get a good smolder on them as this cook goes on. Right now all 3 bottom vents are open. When I'm about maybe 25 to 30 degrees away from 275, I'm going to shut the vents down about halfway. That should settle in around the 275 range. I only am guessing at this for now because if you leave them all open with enough hot charcoal, you can get up to about 325 or so. So I figure shutting them about halfway will give me 275. The top vent will stay open for the entire duration of the smoke. I am going to put the probe in because I want to watch the temperature climb and also monitor the grill temperature remotely. And last but not least, I am going to do a spritz. It's just going to be some fruit juice. I have to go and see what I have in the house, but probably once an hour I'm going to do a very generous spritzing of the meat. I'm going to assemble this, get this bad boy on here, and we can start the timer. We're going fat cap side up. I want the fat as it renders to melt through the meat, which will help keep it moist. Hey everybody, we're sitting at about the hour and 30-minute mark. I'm a little late to do the first spritz, but it's all good. We were having a big breakfast inside, so that's fine. It's been holding 275. I did get into the low 300s a little bit. I had to fiddle with the vents. They're all at about 25% open on the bottom, and we're still 100% open on the top. This is a mixture of some strawberry, banana, apple fruit juice mixed with apple cider vinegar. It's about 2 parts juice to 1 part apple cider vinegar. I'm going to give this quite the generous spritz. Come on in here for a viewing. Oh wow, look at the color on that. Pork shoulder. Thanks. I'm gonna let this ride and I'll come back out each hour to do another spritz, but we're probably not gonna be keeping too close an eye on this thing until we hit about the 5-hour mark. I am expecting to hit a meat stall. I haven't done enough research to know when about temperature range wise the stall will occur, but I do know, folks, that when you're cooking a piece of meat this size and you are aiming for an internal temperature, in this case 195 to 200, when the temperature stops coming up, all it is a meat stall. It just means that the meat is starting to sweat at such a high rate that the water coming out of it cools it off, which is why you won't see the temperature keep coming up. It will get to a point though where the temperature will keep coming up again. So when you get to that point, don't touch it, just leave it alone. You have to wait to push through the meat stall. But I'll show you guys when that happens. I got the thermometer going inside, so when this thing stops coming up in temp, I'll bring you along for the journey and show you what it's all about. See you in a bit. Hey everybody, welcome back. We're at the 4-hour and 15-minute mark, and I said I'd bring you in here when I hit the stall. So if you come take a look at this, I've been hovering around 162, 163 degrees Fahrenheit for maybe the last, I don't know, 20 minutes or so. The temperature hasn't budged. I did come out and stoke the charcoal earlier as the temperature was dropping, and although the number just went down once, it has been coming back up in temp. I just have to fiddle with the vents now. But the only thing you can do during a meat stall, you have 2 options. If you're in a rush, wrap it in tin foil and you can push through the stall that much faster. I'm not worried about it. Everything's tracking to be on time for a 5 o'clock dinner. I'm not going to wrap it. I'm just going to let it work its way through the stall. Maybe another 10 to 15 minutes, could be even more, and the temperature, the internal temperature of the meat will start coming back up. It's that simple. Nothing to worry about. Nothing to see here. But we should have a little viewing since we're out here, right? Come on in. Look at that color. I'll check in with you guys in another hour or so. We are coming up to 7 hours. It's been 6 hours, 45 minutes. The barbecue is holding steady at between 280 to 300 for the last couple hours anyway, and the internal temperature 176. So we're probably in the last hour, I think. As long as I can hold 300, I'm sure the charcoal is probably getting low by now, but 1 more hour we should be all right. I've put together just a mixture of barbecue sauce and sriracha. Basted the pork shoulder very lightly, and for the last hour it's just going to add, it'll enhance the flavor. Before I close it up, throw my glove on here, I want to just do a quick tenderness test. Very simple to do. You just grab your meat probe, poke it in a secondary spot. If it slides right in, you know it's nice and tender. If you're meeting with some resistance, then the meat and the fat is not breaking down as fully as it should be.
That slides in quite nicely, actually. Still met with a little resistance, so as we know, there's still at least about another hour left to go. I said 7 to 8 hours, I think, so I'll check in with you then and we'll see how it is. We made it. We're at the end. It's close to 9 hours. I have to be honest, I noticed the temperature on the barbecue started dropping rapidly, and I thought, I'm at 194 degrees Fahrenheit. I'm 1 degree away from the band that I said would be fine. And I thought, I'll just hold out. Ran out of charcoal. So the temperature of the pork never came up, so it's just been resting in here, but resting unwrapped. So before I lose too many juices coming out of the pork shoulder, I'm gonna wrap it, bring it inside, just let it rest for about half an hour or so, and then we'll be having some delicious dinner. I'll see you guys in there.
Welcome back. We've been letting the pork shoulder rest for about 30 minutes now. I'm going to open this up and see how we did, see if it's pullable. It smells pretty good even with the tin foil on. Alright, I'm just strategizing a little bit how I'm going to go about this. Because it wasn't just a fat cap, it actually looked like there was still skin on top as well. In a perfect world, I should be able to peel this back, exposing all the juicy meat and fat that's rendered down, and just give me good access to pull this. So give me a sec while I figure this out. Alright, it's pulled, it was pullable, took a little effort. Quick analysis. By looks alone, it does look a little dry. I did take a look at some of the fattier areas of the meat, and the fat did melt down quite a bit. So one thing this could mean is, if there was a little less fat than you might typically see or typically want to see, there wasn't as much moisture keeping it dry, despite my spritzing every hour. That's one thing. However, it looks amazing. Come in and get a load of this. This is a pretty nice piece. We've got a great smoke ring. Bark turned out absolutely great. And I think it's time for a taste test. Pulls apart pretty decently, pretty easily. Wow, that was pretty good. I was right, it is a little dry, but that's okay because I have a little mixture over here that I'm going to spread over, mix it up, add a little bit of moisture back into it. Flavor. The outside, the bark just has this awesome flavor. The smokiness from the paprika plus the cherry wood that I used. Sweetness of the brown sugar. I have this little hint of tang from the apple cider vinegar portion of the Spritz that was used. I love it. If I were to compare this to the pulled beef episode that we did a little while ago, this one, the flavor's there, but I think I like pulled beef better than pulled pork. But it took me 3 times before I got comfortable with pulled beef. I'm going to give this 3 shots before I make that final decision. So what I'm going to do now is, actually now that I think about it, although this did turn out a little dry, there was more than enough meat that I probably could have tried some kind of injection. I do that when I grill chicken, or even when I slow cook chicken down in the 250 range on the Weber Smoky Mountain, I inject it with something. So as it gets warm, all of that moisture from within that you injected starts keeping everything on the inside nice and moist. I think I'm going to try that next time, and I'll let you guys come along for the journey so you can see how it turns out too. That's not a bad idea. All right. That's it. That's pulled pork. I'm going to get this little mixture on here. It's just some barbecue sauce mixed in with some sriracha, which Holly and I really enjoy. It's going to taste great. We have a coleslaw and homemade sweet potato buns. This is all going on. So thanks a lot for joining me on the journey today. Slap the like button. Subscribe if you're not. Thanks a lot to the people who are already subscribed. I really appreciate your support. Leave a comment down below if you have any questions or suggestions. As always, folks, I look forward to hearing from you. And don't tell my parents I was smoking in the backyard. I'll see you next time.
Get out of there. Yeah, going to stay open for the entire...
You get away from that.
Yeah.
Get going.